Welcome, 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 and good morning, good morning, good morning. It is time to rise and shine and get the day started. Hopefully, you got your cup of tea with you, and we're going to have some good conversations. For those of you who don't know me, I am Andre Merriman. I'm your creative harmony coach and master domestic violence help coach. For the next 12 days, and past then, but for the next 12 days, what I want to do is I want to bust through 12 myths that have been keeping survivors stuck, that are keeping them in a place of feeling that they cannot move out. So, what I'd like to have is to make sure that you guys are conversating with me. Let me know where you are when you come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, if you give me just a moment, I want to share this out so that um, some of the ladies that usually come through can see. So I'm going to share this, and share this. And so I want you to have a conversation and let me know some of the myths. That would be, while you're waiting on me to share this out, let me know some of the myths that you've heard while you have been working with clients or out and talking to your friends. Let me know where you're from while you come in here. Today's first myth we're going to talk about is I'm not strong enough. And I really want to talk about that. So for those of you here, go ahead, let me know where you're from. Put in the comments where you're from. Let me know what you think about that myth. I'm not strong enough. And we hear that all the time. And we use strong when we're talking about women so often that you're not hearing what they're saying. We use it as in when things are happening, oh, you're so strong. Oh, you're not strong. What does that mean? What does that really mean? What are we looking at as strong when when we're conversing about women? I remember, and any of you have heard me often talk about being strong and understanding when I went through losing my child, people would say, "Well, I don't know how you do that," or I hear it even now, "You're so strong, you're so strong." What does that mean? What does the strong piece mean? What does that mean to you when people are telling you that or you're saying that to other people? Because when we look at domestic violence, and I just want to start at the very beginning of the piece of domestic violence. Domestic violence is not an anger issue. And as we go through these 12 myths, I need you to understand that it didn't happen because the person was angry. It didn't happen just because the person um, felt like you didn't respect them or they were going to say these things. But what I need you to understand is domestic violence is a power and control issue. In every relationship, there's power and someone has control. But if you look at the way things should be in a relationship where everyone has a say so, it may not be just 50-50 and how to put the quantitative, but I want you to think about that there's power and control in every relationship. You own your power. And for those of you that have not been um, understanding the power piece of it, you have power. Your words have power. Your actions have power. The things that you do have power. So in that relationship, you should be able to say the things that you want to say. You should be able to express yourself, communicate without fear of being abused, whether that's verbal abuse, whether that's physical abuse. So many times we think that just because he didn't hit me or she didn't hit me, that it's not abuse. But I'm here to tell you that it is. So I need you to understand that in a relationship, everyone has power. who controls that power? You should control your own power. You should be giving freely to your spouse, to your significant other. You should be giving freely the pieces that need to go in a relationship. You guys should be communicating. That's what healthy looks like. Communicating, being able to say, hey, you made me mad. Hey, you made me angry. Let's talk about this. Hey, you said that you were going to do X, Y, Z. You were going to cook. You come home first. You said you were going to cook. You didn't. That made me angry. See, we should be able to have those conversations without fear of abuse. But it's not happening, and it's not happening on a large scale. And we need to talk about that because we are in a pandemic within the pandemic. And, I read an article the other day and it said a double pandemic. I call it, the pandemic in the pandemic because, see, what we fail to forget with everything that's going on in our economics and social statuses right now, we are still in a medical pandemic, but domestic violence was a pandemic before any of this started. So, and as I looked at this, I had to, good morning, Teresa. Good morning, Rachel. And as I had to look at this, and I had to take some time off last week, that's why we hadn't had our morning tea, to just, as an empath, to just absorb everything that was going on. Because where do I go with this? How do I express myself? But the thing is, I can't take my eye off the prize. And the prize is we must disrupt what looks normal in domestic violence if we're going to eradicate it. So how do we look at that as violence as a whole? And so, as I was praying and thinking about all of this, it come to me, we're going to have to bust some myths. If we're going to disrupt normalcy, we're going to have to bust some myths that are holding our women back. And I want to take a moment and say, good morning, Miss Shirley. I want to take a moment and say that as we go through these myths, as we start going through this, it has to be understood that domestic violence is happening to everyone across. I understand that there are men that are being abused. I wasn't called to serve the men. The information is good and they can use it. I work with them. But my mission is to talk to the women. But see, the problem is if the women are the victims, then how do you stop it without dealing with the men? And so it's a good thing that I have great friends that work on that side of the deal. So all I can do is empower the women to understand and love themselves and to, looking at Doreen, I need to hear this right now. No faith in legal system. Yes. Yes. And that's a whole nother conversation. And we'll have that too. But I want you to understand that I'm here to give you these myths so that you can, if you are a victim, that you can understand you have the power. If you are an advocate, a servant leader, and it has been brought to my realization that if you are a servant leader, you have a business and your main focus may not be to work with domestic violence victims, but if you're working with the public, if you're looking at someone sitting in front of you, you have no idea what just happened at their home this morning before they got to you. If you're on Zoom, if you're on social media and you're trying to help someone build their business, you're trying to help someone build their ministry, you're trying to help them write a book, you want to give them the 10 tips to make 5G and 5K and all these numbers, you need to know who you're dealing with. Because if you're dealing with someone that you're telling them, I'm going to empower you to make 6K and all this stuff in 2 days, you need to understand that their mindset may be that they want to do this, but their relationship is holding them back. You may look at them and say, oh, they're powerful. They have a powerful story. They need to write a book, but you don't know what they're living in that moment. So I need you to share this with your servant leader friends. I need you to have them understand that this is so widespread that everybody has been touched by domestic violence in some form or way. Family member, themselves, somehow or another, that trauma is inside that person that you're going to have to listen to and deal with. Not on the scale to where you need to be an advocate and sit down and have that conversation, but you need to have the resources to give them. Just like you're referring them to therapists and counselors, or telling them they need to go and hire a business coach or a branding coach or and transformational coach, which is all true. But you also need to say, I need to send you to a domestic violence advocate. I need to send you to someone that can help you sort these things out. So when you go to your therapist and your counselor, that you have the right topics to talk about. Because so many times people are not understanding that this is what was holding them back. This is what had them stuck. And we as women, we as people go out and we tell people the number one myth about being strong. You need to be strong. You need to be strong enough to leave. I need to stop this myth right now. And I want you to understand this right now. A woman in a domestic violence situation is probably the strongest woman you'll ever meet. What you need to do is channel that strength into empowering her. Because, and you don't believe me, let me think about this. A woman who is being physically abused has the ability to learn that abuser. They're watching that person and they can tell just when he's about to hit, so they can try to duck. They have the ability to smile at you in your face while they're going back home to the abuser. They know when to say what. They have the ability to still take care of their kids, although the kids are suffering from that. But I need you to understand, they're still doing their best to take care of their kids. So it's not that that person, that victim is not strong enough. It's that that victim is using their strength and their power in the wrong avenues. So what we need to do as leaders is to be able to guide them and empower them to a point to where they can use that same strength, and so they can understand. And see, the society has told them they're so weak for so long. Your mind is weak. Your so and so's weak. You don't know how to do this. You should leave him. You should, without asking them what they want. But we need to understand that if they have the strength to live through and to endure the abuse that they have and still be able to stand to tell about it, that there's strength inside of them. We just need to empower that strength to move in a different way. And, we're often listening and talking about, well, they just need better self-esteem. And that's part of that strength building, the self-esteem building. But you need to understand, if you look at, I always just look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs because I've noticed it to be still real. If you are wondering where your food is coming from, if he's only giving you enough food for 2 or 3 days, but it's supposed to last you a week, if you have to ask, and if your financial status is wrong, when you're trying to figure out where your next meal is coming from, period. If you don't feel safe at home or you don't feel safe at work, because see, what you need to understand is, if you're being taken advantage of at home in your intimate partner relationships, chances are you've got friends, you've got coworkers that are doing the same thing, because that's a personality that people see inside of you. And when you are a person that's constantly trying to please other people and please everyone in front of you, those that want to be pleased, those that are giving, those that are running game, they understand that. They draw to you. So you need to look at your intimate partner relationships and your friend relationships, because I know that there's somebody that's in that relationship with you that you want to get rid of it, not just your intimate partner. So when we talk about the strength of a woman that is being abused, We need to really look at how strong she is to be able to survive that, and then figure out how we can change that to something that can grow into something wonderful. And I often use the analogy of a pearl, because if you look at a pearl in the light, I want you to hear this. When you look at a pearl in the light, just like we want to bring the silence of our abusive women to the light, when you look at a pearl in the light and you hold it up to the light, you can still see the irritant that was in the middle of everything. See, because when that mollusk had felt that irritant inside of it, when it started abusing it, when something foreign got inside of it, it started spinning a nacre. It started spinning a web around that irritant. And that irritant stayed there. The irritant was always there, but it spun that nacre around that. But what comes out was something glorious, something illuminating. When you hold the pearl up to the light, you can still see the irritant, but you can also see the shining, the blues, the purples, the reds, the pinks, and all the beautiful colors that are there that have come out of that pain that was inside that irritant. So I want you to start looking at our victims as women that need to start spinning their nacre, that need to start understanding that the strength that is inside of them that have helped them live in that war zone. See, women come out of domestic violence with PTSD as if they've lived in the war zone. And because they have. And it's even worse because it was someone they loved. So they have that strength to live through the war. Then they can have the strength to live through the war outside of that pain. So look at that, spend and help them spend that nacre, help them spend that peace, that peace that goes around them that can help illuminate them. You may be part of that web so that they can come out and understand their strength. Let me slow down because I get excited when I'm talking about it. So they can understand their inner strength, so they can understand that you have life out of this. You've lived through the war zone. You've walked through the valley of the shadow of death. Put your faith now into your spiritual believing, into the God that you serve, so that He can build you up. See, in every build up, there has to be a breakdown. I call them the 3 B's. You got to break down and you got to accept it. You got to hold it up to the light so it can be analyzed. And as you do that, you have to break through. And that may look like you're crying and crying and crying. And when you get through crying, you're crying some more and you're talking, you're communicating, you're analyzing, you're working through that. But once you get through that breakthrough, then it's time to build up. So on my first myth, as we talk about, I'm not strong enough, I need us to start looking at these victims as being strong women and not weak women. What does that do? That changes the mindset of what we do. See, when we change the mindset of how we look at a victim, we can help more. So many times I hear people saying, well, why did she leave? Why didn't she do that? And they can't help them because they're judging them in a way that they don't understand. Because you've looked at them as a weak vessel and not the strong woman that they are. I want you to think about that. I hope you had a wonderful tea this morning. I want us to bust that myth that women are not strong enough. That's why they stay in it, and start looking at it differently ourselves. For those of you who are servant leaders who do work with different tribes in your communities, I ask you to please join us during the 22nd through the 25th during our Tea and Pearl annual sister gathering. We will talk more about social distancing, the social determinants of health, what all this looks like when you couple it with mental health and abuse. What does it look like for the homeless and the children as we walk through some healing processes for ourselves? Um, Join us. It's only $59. We've reduced it because it's virtual. It is our annual fundraiser for my 501c3. So you will get more than $59 worth of information. You'll get a certificate of attendance. But until tomorrow, we're going to continue for the next 12 days to bust these myths. Tomorrow's myth, we're going to tackle I'll be alone. So thank you for joining me this morning. Until tomorrow morning, I'm Andrea Merriman, your creative harmony coach and your master domestic violence help coach, wishing you hope, harmony, and happiness.